Before we dive into today's incredible episode, let's take a moment together. There is nothing better than settling in, maybe with a cup of tea, just like in our African tradition, to soak in stories that inspire and empower. So grab your favorite drink and fasten your seatbelts and get ready for an unforgettable conversation with our guest today. And here's the thing. Here at Raw, we cannot do this without you. By clicking subscribe, not only are you joining a community, not only are you subscribing to a channel, but you are becoming a key part of a movement that's reshaping the global narrative about African excellence. We are on a mission to inspire 100,000 passionate individuals that believe in the power of African innovation, culture, and leadership. And guess what? You can help us get there by spending only 2 seconds of your time. 1. Subscribe. 2. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to take it a step further, visit our website and consider partnering with us. Your support fuels our journey and empowers the next generation of leaders. Together, we are changing the world. Let's roar. Today's guest is an accomplished civil engineer. For over 15 years, Ousman Touray has led and contributed to several impactful projects in Western Eastern Africa that highlight the future of sustainable infrastructural development. His achievements have earned recognition from top startup journals, establishing him as a leader in his field. Join us as we learn from Ousman Touray. Welcome, Ousman. It's so great to have you here at the Sunny House.
Thank you very much.
Many people usually start the New Year's with a very optimistic spirit. Are you someone who sets goals for yourself for the new year?
I've adopted a more like I just adapt as necessary. So I don't necessarily align with the new year. If something needs to be changed, I change immediately. This is something I picked up over the past 2 years. So New Year's resolutions isn't something for me, but it's because I feel like the time is now and not waiting until the year ends.
Right. And how did you spend the new year?
Good. I was with family. We had a nice cozy. We were in London, so nice cozy New Year at home. We didn't go out because the crowds with the kids, we can't really take them out, so we were just home. But yeah, it was great to celebrate the beginning of 2025 and excited about everything that could possibly happen this year.
That sounds like it was a good start. Okay, speaking of beginnings, here at Raw, we usually like to start with the names. It's usually an icebreaker that I use. And in our African traditions, usually our names have a meaning or a story to them. And I'm wondering, your surname, does it have a meaning to it or a story to how you got it?
Yeah, so the name Usman is from an Arabic name, Uthman bin Affan. So he was one of the four people closer to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Islamic history. He was someone who was highly respected, someone very gentle and kind. My name, I was named after someone who meant a lot to my dad. He pretty much was his guardian when he was younger. When he moved from the village he was from to the city, he looked after him, he supported him through school. So I'm my father's first child, so he named me after the guy. And then Touray is a surname that spans across West Africa. They were known to be warriors, so there's an attachment to Touray, Manding Mori. It's like a Mandinka warrior. So they're supposed to be brave and very strong people across Mali, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Sierra Leone. So many countries have to carry the surname spelled in the French way or the English way.
Okay, and you grew up in Gambia, no?
I was actually born in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
but I lived in the Gambia between the ages of 10 to 17. So it's a very interesting time. I was able to learn many languages and learn about the culture. So I call myself, more Gambian because if I'm in Gambia, you wouldn't know that I've ever left there, before. I fit in well.
And what languages did you speak at home?
So there's Wolof, which is spoken in Senegal, and a bit of Mandinka, some Fula here and there, and Jola. So I know how to say hello in most languages. There's like eight, I think, in that region. Hello, how are you? I'm hungry, just to
Enough to
engage with,
survive.
yeah, enough to survive, exactly. So yeah.
Okay, so it seems you had part of your formative years in Gambia, and I think I'll try and focus more on that because our viewers probably are more interested in that. And where did you go to school in Gambia?
So I went to a private school called Ndaws. It was founded by a lady called Mrs. Harriet Ndaw. Someone who created something very special in Gambia because I think everyone who went to that school, felt like a part of a big family. The education was superb. We were breaking national records in education. So she had something that prepared us for after school. When we went to college, most of us were like acing exams, doing extremely well. So I think, yeah, we're thankful for what she created and for preparing us for what happened next.
Mm. Okay, and was there a particular experience or a subject that ignited your interest in engineering to start with in this time?
Yeah, I mean, during high school, I think I didn't like reading. So I was more like maths, physics, you don't need to read, you just know the formulas and you just, yeah. So, and then I liked technical drawing. So back then, this was before AutoCAD, you had the T-square and the drawing board, and I
That's
just
it.
liked, the set squares, the compass. I liked just drawing stuff, and that's how I got into, engineering. But then the bad news was, well, not bad news. When you go to university, you have to read because you have homework to do and you have to. So I couldn't avoid reading in the end. And now I'm a serial reader. I love reading.
Well, we do have that in common there. I'm also someone who likes math, and I'm also someone who actually like TD.
Hmm.
So I can really understand. I was also someone who always thought people who can read a lot or, get data like numbers or history or something like that, I really respected them because I thought just getting a formula and, practicing that long enough is probably easier. And was there a moment where you felt, you wanted to get into finding solutions for or dedicate your life to this mission of finding housing for the communities?
I think you would agree with me, and from like reading books, autobiographies, you find that everyone's journey, every step of the way leads them to finally having an idea or thinking of something. And you're right, I think there's always been the love for engineering or building and architecture. I was also very involved in volunteering. So I was with the Red Cross Society for years, and I traveled even internationally on behalf of the Red Cross and youth activities. I went to Kenya for the first time in the late 90s for the first African Youth Parliament, yeah, AYP. For example, I attended seminars across, and the I guess the volunteering side, always wanting to serve people, combined with the engineering, is what brought out the whole idea of finding a way to provide more affordable housing for people. So I guess it was just a part of my journey. And if anything was missed out, then the idea could have been something else, I guess.
And maybe just for people to be able to understand, and now you started a company. I may pronounce it poorly, but it's Pioneers.
Pioneers, as in the phi, the physics, the symbol, and I call it a social enterprise because we are working on getting that certification to get the social enterprise badge because we believe it's more than just a company, I guess.
And you have done some work I have seen in Gambia. There's some that is coming up in Tanzania. What exactly are you doing with the findings?
Okay, so I will try to summarize the whole global plan. The goal is to improve the quality of life for all. Now that is very broad, but when you sort of condense it to a more actionable goal, the first problem we want to look at is housing. And we found that not only in Gambia, but across Africa, the average cost of a house is, let's say, 40 to 50,000 US dollars, and you have hundreds of millions of people living below the poverty line. So there's a big disconnection between what is available and what is affordable for those who really need housing. Reasons being the dependency on importation. And now this is not only housing, but I'll focus on housing. If you import everything, of course, the cost will go up because the dollar value, the euro value, the market. So I was thinking, why don't we go back to hundreds of years before we had any connection with Europe or the Western world? And we had very amazing structures that we built, like the pyramids, the Great Wall of China. They had no connection with engineering or AutoCAD or cranes. So why can't we build something that's ours with what we have? And interestingly, when you look across the regions, in Central Africa, there's loads of bamboo, for example. So you have a sustainable solution for bamboo. It's not available in Tunisia or Algeria because they're more dry land, but there's something that could be used to make houses.
Houses.
Why did we start in Gambia? Because, of course, I have more connections there. It was easier. We had some materials that we shipped from Gambia to a university here, and we tested the materials. We did some strength tests and all of that to come up with something that would work. And naturally, we looked at Senegal as well because it's the same region, same landscape. And through my professional job or professional world, I shared my ideas with people who I work with. And that's how places like Tanzania came up, because there's someone there who's like, I'm very interested in being a part of this project. And naturally, he has a team, he has an engineering team, he has a, team that go out on site and build, because my day job is managing projects across Africa. So the synergy is there with connecting. Even there's someone in Malawi who says, "Hey, but I have to take it easy because you can't be everywhere." So the focus is now Gambia, Senegal. Then once we are comfortable with what we have, once we start getting real customers, and we see that we're scaling, we'll then start to visit other countries. The problem is the same, the solution is the same. We just need to start building and making it more affordable for people who need it the most.
And you say you've drawn some inspiration from some building practices, like maybe using bamboo specific to Gambia or Senegal or anywhere that's closer to where you've have your background from. What's specific to Gambia's heritage that has influenced your approach to your projects?
In that region, we're looking at, there's the opportunity for straw bale, there's an opportunity for earth, clay. It's very clayey in that area. So those are the things we're playing around with now. There is the push to use the least possible amount of anything that's imported or that has harm to the environment. At the moment, it's not possible because, as you know, it's heavy on research and development. So we just want to get just over a certain threshold to say we are this percentage green, and the rest, as we develop, will work on more solutions for windows and doors. It's a there's a lot of things to look at.
What are the key drivers to the challenges of housing that you see in Africa, in different parts of Africa?
I think looking at the sustainability triangle: society, environment, and what's the other one again? Social, economic, and environmental. That's it. So social meaning the society, how they feel, how comfortable are they? what is the impact on the environment? So for example, if you're building a large scale housing development, you clear all the land, you're using cement, and eventually you lose all of your trees, the rainfall reduces, and then economic, you know, is there a way that people can make money? Are they able to afford these houses? Are there jobs being created? So for us, the key thing is the cost and the impact on the environment, because if we are using sustainable materials, so it's nothing harming the environment, we can still reduce carbon emissions and, of course, provide something that is, I wouldn't say cheap, it's more affordable, more accessible for people. There are many houses made of recycled materials and not resilient enough to withstand heavy rain, not resilient enough to withstand floods, and millions of people lose their homes. With something a bit more resilient and stronger that they can afford, I think it would improve the quality of their life. And also, our main focus is providing employment for the areas we serve. So if we have a project in a village in Gabon, the people of the village will be the contractors who build it. So automatically there's a circular economy where they are making money and they see the benefit of the project. We're not bringing any international people working to take the money back.
We would like to share a special message from our international sponsors, Neon Ghosts. Born from a passion for storytelling, Neon Ghosts is dedicated to capturing the essence of culture, music, and creativity. They've featured incredible international talent like Jason Mraz, OMD, and Travis, and celebrated our own unique African talent, including Chiwanuka, Neka, Yakuto, and John Mook, showcasing the vibrancy and diversity of the globe. Neon Ghost believes in the transformative power of storytelling, whether through the lens of a photographer, the words of a journalist, or the rhythm of a musician. They consistently deliver dynamic content about pop culture, music, and the arts, collaborating with artists worldwide. If you are passionate about discovering music and cultural stories, then visit Neon Ghosts at neon-ghosts.de. That's neon-ghosts.de. So even for the qualified skills like the engineers as well, you get them from the local content?
So we found that there's always an engineering firm in the country. We have our team, we have engineers and we have architects, but it's more to support them because they have the background knowledge of the environment as well. So we could come and say, hey, we want you to do 10 bags of this soil, and they would say, hey, no, we don't have this in the country. Why don't have you thought of using shells? It's important that you have someone from the ground working with you because they might even know an idea or they might have a solution that's even better than what you have. So the collaboration with the local teams is very, very essential. And that's how you get your final solution that works for both parties. And you're not imposing something, you're actually giving them something that they need or something that works.
And are there maybe innovations or policies that you see can help with these challenges as well? Or how can people on ground be ready to engage in such projects and opportunities to be able to improve their housing?
I think there is an angle with local universities and colleges where they could create programs for research on using materials, maybe competitions where you challenge people to come up with the best solution for a window or door, and there are many people with tons of ideas. And then you also have initiatives, maybe governments giving like initiatives for people who come up with such projects and support them with land and, just something that encourages people to think outside the box and not just go with the norm. And I think you would agree with me from the context of 80% of people building a house, the first thing they think of is how much is a bag of cement? so
Absolutely.
expensive. Oh, I have to buy the bags of cement and blocks, and they do not think of ways, and they maybe see the traditional ways of building as primitive or not. I don't know, but there's a social element as well of accepting. But when you see some hotels and some resorts, and they have some really cool buildings that they've done with clay or earth, and it's quite nice and strong. But I think there's just a mindset thing.
Exactly. I completely agree. Usually I try to not put my own comments
Hmm.
on what people say, but I think that's the whole meaning of this channel. It is to show the excellence of what we have. I've seen a lot of people also start to adopt the clay for finishing or even
Hmm. Hmm.
for cooling, for all different applications that actually people use cement or other kinds of building material with. So how can we move beyond setting up housing and shelter to actually building communities that are thriving and resilient?
Very good question, because I missed that part. I missed explaining that part. We are looking at building more than just a house or two houses for people. We want to build communities, and this is where the model of sharing, the model of collaboration, the model of feeling as a community comes in. And you would agree with me as well. If you go to rural Africa, the villages, there is that bond with everyone in the village already. So we what we want to do is we want to swap the structures that they live in with something more resilient. Everything else remains the same. So the in West Africa they call it the Bantaba. So there's an area where the elders meet and sit down and have chats. This will all be the same. Now, to add on to that, if you look at power, now you have a unit, a block of 10 to 12 units, and they have solar panels that feed into where they live. This is also building a sense of community and sharing. So each household has feed into the main solar panels, and they share the cleaning responsibilities, dusting everything off. Someone is trained to make sure that they know how to fix things and monitor things. They have a fund where if they need maintenance, they know how to buy the spare parts. You have a rainwater harvesting as well. They have a community tanks where they share the water. So the spirit of sharing and caring is very important, and this is what we feel is our added value. We don't just want to build apartment blocks where people come and move in and they don't talk to each other. No.
That's superb.
It's great. Yeah, this is purely exactly how in the African context or even in Asia people live. They share, they care, they grow together, they share gardens, they share, and this is what we want to do. We want to build communities that thrive, opportunities, economically help them empower themselves to feel that they can make a living where they are. They don't have to migrate to the capital city and live in slums. They have vast land where they're from, and they can do a lot to build their economy and also help the country, because if you have an overloaded capital city, but you have millions of hectares of land that's just there doing nothing, it really is not in the interests of development as well. I might be digressing from.
No, please. I think the sustainable bit about that particular concept and what excites me is that it is adaptive to the culture that is
Hmm.
in place. It's really looking at how people live and really trying to look at solutions for the housing, but still keeping their traditions and culture. Let's dive a bit more into the African housing market. So, Africa's cities are growing at unprecedented rates. So, there are both opportunities and challenges for that
Hmm.
in the market of housing. What, in your opinion, makes the housing sector in Africa unique or ripe for investment?
So I think you're right, and I've been fortunate to travel a lot to different regions, and I think each country is set up differently. In Dakar, Senegal, or Kinshasa, there are many high-rise buildings now because they want to fit as many people in a smaller space. In Tanzania, It's more open, big compound, one house. There's a lot of that in Dar es Salaam. I think you're right. The population is growing. I think the problem is there's big pressure on the cities. Everyone wants to live in the city. Everyone wants to be in the city because they feel that's where they will be successful. And it's different from the UK or France or Belgium where you have so many towns, hundreds of towns where you could live and you don't really need to live in Paris or London or the big city because you can have everything you need in your town. And this is the problem with Africa. I think we just don't have enough settlements that are good enough for dwelling, good enough, and everyone just goes in. So you have a high density in the city, and then when you look everywhere else, it's empty. So the opportunity for the developers in the city, of course, there's a high demand for housing. They will continue to build, but there's a bracket of people who can afford it. And then there's another big bracket who can't. So they end up creating, uncomfortable dwellings in the suburbs, and that's what they call the slums
Slums.
because they go to work in the city, but then they can't afford that apartment that's being sold for $100,000. So they live in and then that creates crime, creates many things because they are there. They don't want to be there. If they could live in the surrounding areas and have everything they need, then it reduces the need for slums, and then it reduces the tension on the big city, and at least it balances everything a bit more. So that's my opinion on the housing crisis and maybe what could solve it. And it goes back to what we're looking to do if we visit a village of cocoa farmers, and the cocoa farmers are empowered to make millions of dollars from where they are and have nice housing and export and stuff. They don't need to be in the capital city. They're making their money, they have their money, they have their, you know, and if everyone else, the cotton farmer, the person who's by the river who does like a river transport business, the guy who grows groundnuts, the people who have big herds of cattle, they have their strong communities where they are and they build from there. We won't have a problem with over congested cities.
So the part of the problem is the lack of infrastructure in these rural
Yeah,
places
yeah. And
and
empowerment.
and empowerment. And there is also these land rights. They're really a sensitive issue in Africa. So sometimes they're leading to people getting displaced or even disputes.
Hmm.
Are there like, for example, policies or infrastructures that you believe can be able to improve the industry of this housing sector in that way?
Yeah, I think for that, there's records, digitalizing information, that kind of stuff helps. You have an address system here. I mean, when I say here, I mean in the developed countries, you have an address system, you have records, so it's clear of ownership is clear, documentation is clear. It's hard to, but in Africa, like five people could sell you the same piece of land, and it's very difficult to know which one is the owner, and you have all of these disputes because, but again, it goes back to the point, the main issues or the main challenges with land happen in the big cities or the suburbs. Outside in the villages, people really haven't, most of them, I don't think, have even registered their land. You just say, oh, this is our family land, this is our village, and they have, hectares of land to deal with, but they haven't gotten to the proper registration, which I think is important. So I think digitalization is the way forward to make sure everything is clear.
Urbanization and climate. Which African cities are currently setting the standard in developing these climate resilient or sustainable urban spaces that we can pick lessons from, that we can share across the continent?
Good question. From research, I would say Rwanda. I think Kigali is doing a lot in terms of green, clean solutions and technology. Unfortunately, I don't know of another city or country. I think the big cities all have problems of making themselves green. I think, yeah. So I think Kigali, I've seen some stuff about them, and Rwanda's an example of a country looking to be the leader in everything. Safety, they're on the safety,
Technology.
technology, safety, business, empowering entrepreneurship and supporting tech startups. So I think you also have a lot of startups in South Africa and Kenya and Nigeria, but I think in terms of the all-round looking to be a top leader, I think Rwanda is a good example to follow.
On collaboration among African countries, there's been some great examples, like the countries that are working together to have open trade policies. That is the African Continental Free Trade Area. And it's aiming to boost intra-African trade. How do you see cross-border partnerships driving the progress in urban development?
I think it's amazing. I think it would be because I will tell you from my experience, it's very hard to transport goods from one country to another in Africa. Even people try flying from West Africa to East, you probably have to fly out into Europe and back, or go through 5, 6 different connections within Africa. So I think the trade, the transfer of people and goods in Africa is a headache. And this means if I have a very good solution in Ghana, it would be hard for me to transport it to Cameroon. It would be easier for me to transport it to Europe or America than within Africa. So I think that policy you said will help empower people to do cross trade, cross transportation of goods and people. Someone from Ghana could move to Cameroon easily and maybe start a business or provide a service and share some technology that they have and vice versa. So I think the free trade, which is how it is in the European Union, it's very easy to just move from France to Belgium and you just blend in quick. There's no, for
Why is
example,
it then, I wonder, why is it then easier to do trade with a country in the European Union than a country that's actually in the continent? Do you know?
I think it's just the word union, the European Union explains it all. They are unified, so people and goods can move across the European Union freely. In Africa, we have an African Union, but it's different context. We don't have the free trade of goods and services. So I think that should be something. And I think within regions, I think within West Africa, there's ECOWAS, and I think there's some East African, but I think it's continental, it's sections of different countries joining forces.
If you enjoyed today's episode and are passionate about African excellence and transformative leadership, then you are in for more. Be sure to check out this video here and our next episode where we dive deeper into African innovative solutions. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with someone that finds value in these stories. And finally, we want to hear from you. Comment below a guest that you would like us to feature or a subject that you are curious about. Your ideas fuel our mission, and your voices matter in shaping the conversations that we bring to life. Stay curious, stay inspired, and I'll catch you here next time on The Roar.